Welcome to the first ever live CK podcast. Actually, CK pregame show here from Midici Sacramento. I'm super excited. We are very thankful for Midici for hosting us here. And let's have a hell of a show. Hopefully some people show up. I know it's a little bit early still. About an hour till game time. They're only allowing, I think 1,700 people roughly at the arena. So we're hoping that some people pop in. Got my brothers, E-Man and Javi. How you doing, boys?
Doing good, Leo. Ready for tonight and trying to bounce back from that tumultuous performance last night against
Awful loss. E-Man, I know you're pretty upset about the result.
Always, man. I hate watching them lose, especially after performing pretty well versus the Jazz and Phoenix. And then you just see the debacle versus no defense versus the Timberwolves. So that was hurt me a little bit. We need to see more accountability, more defense this game.
So my question for Javi right now would be, what adjustments would you make going into this game? And maybe talk about some of the mistakes that you don't want to see happen tonight in order to get a victory.
First and foremost, there needs to be a sense of accountability in the defensive schematic play design with the execution that they need to instill, not in what they draw up, but on the court. I feel like a lot of what's drawn up, whether it's done in practice, whether it's done in the huddle, they don't have a good sense of translation. And no matter what if you can't coach it, you can't teach it, it's not going to work in any capacity as any type of team, whether it's basketball, whatever sport it may be. But obviously we're in the business of watching the Sacramento Kings. They need to have a sense of understanding, a comprehension of the defensive concepts. Most importantly, you look at the Timberwolves. I mean, they were shooting, I believe, between 60 and 70% in the first quarter alone from some career 32-point shooters in Anthony Edwards and even some other key contributors to that team. But do not forget, the Minnesota Timberwolves have won 16 games this year, and that's just unacceptable. There's no other way to say it. Like we talked about last night in the pregame or the postgame show, rather, Leo. The product that the Sacramento Kings are currently displaying on the floor is not NBA caliber. No which way about it. And to put that with the De'Aaron Fox lingering ankle injury from the Dallas Mavericks game, only having 14 points, it shouldn't be all on his shoulders, and that needs to be corrected. Now, defensive responsibility, accountability on the defensive end. Most importantly, play with some pride.
Facts. And don't let D'Angelo Russell go off on the Kings no more. I feel like every game we're watching him torch the Kings. Doesn't matter who's on him. He just finds a way to get buckets, man. We just got to – I don't want to see that back-to-back nights, man. I want to see one game where he has a horrible game and the defensive scheme is to specifically take him out of his own game.
Yeah, I mean, again, my biggest adjustment, for me at least, it's please – do not go small in the fourth quarter in crunch time against Karl-Anthony Towns, who is a 7-footer. Harrison Barnes, as much as I love him, is no match for a guy like that. And we saw it last night. It was very disappointing. E-Man and I actually love going small and putting Harrison Barnes at the 5. But last night was one of those nights where you just have to know the room, feel the room. And when you have a 7-footer, that's not a Brook Lopez or say one of those less mobile guys, like those slow bigs, like those traditional bigs. When you have a guy that can shoot the shot, that three-point shot, the way that this guy can, that's where that type of move of going small confuses me, because Karl-Anthony Towns can go in and out and just abuse Mo Harkless, Harrison Barnes, whoever. So that's a lineup where obviously you don't have Rashawn Holmes, but you still want maybe a Metu out there who's a little bit bigger, and maybe a Hassan Whiteside, where I just felt like he took way too long to put Hassan Whiteside and Tyrese. I want to watch Tyrese in crunch time and allow him to just grow in these moments, because not playing him as much, only played 26 minutes last night. Like, I'm not okay with that. He's arguably your second, third best player already. He needs to play more. E-Man, I know you had some thoughts on.
Well, Leo, I'll say this. I know you didn't like them playing small ball yesterday,
Yeah.
but he was still doing damage with Hassan Whiteside on the court, right?
Yep.
Because he was just hanging out around the 3-point line, and Hassan's not quick enough, laterally enough
That's
to go
true.
up there and contest the shot, and he'd get caught down low. And so you just caught Carl. Carl went off at the wrong time, right?
So do you put Metu in there?
No. Well, I understand what Luke was trying to do. He was trying to match offense with offense, right? Ideally, you got 5 small guys. Fox can attack at will and kick it out, and the guys just weren't making threes, right? Harrison Barnes made the first couple of threes, and it was looking nice, but over time, it just stopped working, and the ball stopped moving, right? If it wasn't in Fox's hands, you saw a Buddy or you saw Barnes just playing one-on-one until the shot clock expired, and just didn't work out. But usually small ball works in terms of I need some offense right now, and you were gonna throw haymakers with Carl, but it just didn't work out.
Okay, so context though, you're up by 1 with 7:20 left, and they go on this massive run. At some point, when maybe you're down by 6 or 7, do you not call a timeout and adjust and say, well, this is not working. We've had 5-6 straight possessions of basketball where even though we're smaller, we should be quicker and arguably better on the floor, and the spacing should be better. The offense was out of sync, man. So at that point, as a coach, should you not call a timeout and then just go back to your starting 5?
Your starting 5, and they were still going on a run with your big out there. Is my point. It's just
No, but they were up by 1 though. With 7:20 left, they were up by 1, and then they went on the 14-0 run, and now you're down double digits with Harrison Barnes being abused at the 5. You know what I'm saying? So I get what you're saying, and for the most part,
yeah. My point is, he was getting anybody on the court was going to get abused. Whoever was guarding Cat was going to get abused. Is my point.
even though they were also out-rebounded, which I think that's where Whiteside can box them out and not allow those type of things.
Are you talking? Okay, but we're talking about defensively. They had They couldn't contain Cat yesterday, or at the fourth quarter they couldn't contain him. They were making him make decisions by forcing him to pass the ball because they were sending double teams, and he had to read and react and pass. He made the right plays. Respect to him for making it. He threw everything. You threw the double teams. He made the pass. You sank and helped. He stayed out from 3-point line. He hit threes. He's got respect for Cat. Like he's torching the Kings in the fourth quarter. There was little you can do to stop that unless you had a guy like who? Like Rashawn Holmes, who can get out there quick enough and contest and go back and get rebounds. Offensively, he's a hook shot, right? He can do that touch pass to get you a bucket. But I think I was a fan of them going to small ball, to be honest, because I knew whoever you put out there was going to get torched.
Okay.
And so respected, and it's just apparently Fox was hurt yesterday, and we just found that out after the game.
Yeah, but
after
he was
the
still
fact
playing,
that he wasn't aggressive, huh?
But I mean, he was still on the floor.
He was on the floor and he attacked, right? He attacked. He did attack the rim. I don't know why they restricted him 28 minutes, but he was hurt, and so.
Thoughts on that, Javier? On going small and whether or not you agree or disagree on that?
At the end of the day, Chimezie Metu 6'10", 225. Harrison Barnes should never be put in a position to play center extensively, especially in crunch time, quote unquote. You look at Luke Walton, and the decisions that they make are just unforeseen. And it's nothing against his basketball acumen. I just can't agree with things when the Minnesota Timberwolves looked as if they were the second coming of one of the top 6 teams in the Western Conference, and they're in last place.
Right.
So whatever argument they have to go small, it doesn't make any sense schematically when you're losing and you're giving up points at the clip that they give them up in a game against a team that has literally lost 43 games and we're playing a short season. I have no which way to point other than for the simple fact of when something's broke, you need to go reassess. And
it was
I don't
broke
care
the whole
how
game, bro. They had 70 points at the half. It was broke the whole game.
It was broken. Yes, to say it was broke all game. But what I'm saying is to sit there and say, "Oh well, we need to consider having
But let's just say this: defense was throwing out the game yesterday. Like 70 points at the half was ridiculous.
Okay, but we need to consider.
So Luke was like, you know what? No one's gonna play defense. I'm gonna put all 5 offensive players I have on the court and live with the results. And he died. You live and die with your results. And it was just a bad game. Like the Kings played to the level of the competition, and it just irks me. It's like, come on, man. Like they should be playing like they were playing versus the Suns. It just didn't work out this time.
And I appreciate your opinion and your interjection, but again, the main caveat to what I'm trying to say is Chimezie Metu gets extensive minutes, had 17 and 4 last night, and you don't play him extensively in the fourth quarter when you literally have a player like Harrison Barnes who plays what? Power forward by need is a small forward by trade. Putting him at the center position puts you in a predominant situation to have mismatches to the lesser of what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Karl-Anthony Towns is looking at Harrison Barnes like, I'm about to go to work. I'm about to eat. And they have a lot. And you got Naz Reid. They have Okogie. Those are lengthy.
Okay, Javi, honestly, how many times did he go in there and cook Harrison Barnes one-on-one?
It's not even about the result. It's about the opportunity, about the advantage. Most importantly, the option, the availability. The Kings don't even have the availability to play him like a true big because Hassan Weiss is on the court. Rashawn Holmes is hurt. They don't even play Damian Jones any longer for whatever reason. They gave him the second 10-day contract, and then you send him to the second 10-day contract. Yeah. And then after the first one expired, they don't even play him for whatever reason. Not even 10 minutes to spell Whiteside, whatever it may be. You don't sign somebody with a second 10-day contract, not play him at all. Not even 10 minutes to spell Whiteside or Metu. Metu gets good minutes. He plays well early on. Doesn't hurt your court in the fourth. You would have taken
Metu's minutes away for Damian Jones and bring the mic up closer to you.
What I'm saying is, I'm not in a position to not play him if Barnes is your only option at center. I'm going to put Metu at the 5, put Silva at the 5. See what you got in that acquisition that you had with Miami.
What
I'm saying is, you're not in a position to not play guys because you feel like Harrison Barnes is a better player. Well, obviously he's a better player. But this game is one with athleticism, it's one with length, and it's one with skill. When you're playing small, you're not going to succeed against teams that have length. And the Karl-Anthony Towns-led Timberwolves have all that. They just don't have a true leader. And if anybody has anything to support otherwise, the only team that ever compared to anything of a championship caliber team was the Houston Rockets, the best scorer of the last 5 years of James Harden, and they still couldn't get it done. So there's no reason to play small. And Luke Walton, for whatever decision he's trying to make to change things up, you're setting yourself into oblivion by not playing practical basketball.
But, okay. I don't know how many minutes it was he played small ball. Yes, you can say it was right or wrong. The rest of the game, besides those 5 minutes of small ball, was played your style. Was played with bigs, and it did not work out. You still gave up a lot of points.
Test. At the
end of the day, they lost the game by 14 points, and they lost the points in the paint. I'm assuming by a wide margin, and we can go test to go check.
No,
I don't know. They're saying that your mic is kind of off. So.
It's kind of off. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, it's good. It's good now.
Okay. Sorry about that, Cowboy Kingdom fans and everybody watching around the world. Now, like I said, the points in the paint was a game that they lost considerably, in my estimation. Whether it reflected or not, the
fourth
domination
quarter, I would say so.
But the domination every game, at least in the rebounding category, especially last night, with everything going on, it's noticeably one-sided because you make it a situation where you have the Timberwolves dominating not just the offensive glass, but the defensive glass, and then you put yourself in a position where every time you go up and down the court, if the Kings aren't making a shot, you're having to run in transition with undersized wings and a small forward playing center against the likelihood of where you have D'Angelo shooting lights out from the perimeter, you had Edwards playing a career game from the perimeter, lights out.
He did.
Okogie played well. McDaniels is over here acting like he's in a slam dunk competition. And you still have Towns and Naz Reid.
That's what I'm talking about.
Rubio's over here having this way with the Kings guards on the perimeter, passing the ball to whoever which way every other possession. You have to play practical basketball. You have to be a competent coach. And I'm not saying he's not a competent coach. But what I'm saying is it's the same mistake over and over and over and over again. How many more times we got to watch this? How many more times? I want to know from Leo, from you, E-Man, the Kings fans that are watching right now, you cannot tell me that this team has matriculated for the better since Dave Yeager was let go. The way they play basketball, the decisions they make, most importantly, the way they go about their overall in-game adjustments does not make any sense. And if I'm wrong, let me know why I'm wrong. Because I'm watching the game just like you, analyzing it just like you. Most importantly, I see it just like you.
Well, I wouldn't be bold enough to say they've gotten a lot worse or a lot better, because every player in the offseason, they're all getting better. Right? De'Aaron Fox got way better under Luke Walton than he ever did with Dave Yeager, right? We can agree on that. He's playing. This is his best year, and he's under Luke Walton than every single year he's been in the NBA.
Answer this. That's true. Will the Kings be better right now with Dave Yeager as their head coach?
I just think it's
It's
situation. It's just
no. Would they? Yes or no?
I don't know how to answer. I don't know how to answer that, because different. Like, if Fox and Luke click, that benefits the team because they click.
I didn't ask that. I said, would the Kings be a better team in 2021 on the 21st of April than they would be with Luke Walton as their head coach right now? Would they be better than 23-35? Yes or no?
It's hard to say that. There's just so many variables between a player and coach. I can't say, they're going to be. They would have been a whole lot worse, or Fox wouldn't have been Fox that he is today. I don't know that, because it's just a different.
What way would you lean? Because I want to know, because I'm not getting a straight answer, yes or no from you. What way would you lean? Because I know the answer. The fans know the answer. What way would you lean?
Well, knowing that Luke is a player's coach and Dave is just a coach that's not trying to be your friend.
Did they win under Dave?
He's just trying to. They were getting better. Yeah.
And they got better with Luke Walton.
They've been inconsistent. Like, they show, like, holy cow, they can be a really good team, and then the next 9 games are awful.
Were they more inconsistent with Dave Yeager, or were they more inconsistent with Luke Walton?
I have bad memory. I can't sit here and tell you that they were always bad with Dave Yeager. I'm pretty sure they had good games and bad games. I'm just saying, from talking with players, they all say Dave was a coach, not a player's coach. He wasn't in the locker room to be your friend. And it's just a different situation, like a different presence, different accountability, right? When someone's trying to be your buddy and then doesn't play you, and then versus someone saying, I'm a coach, I don't care who you are, you're going to be on the bench.
But that should not matter.
It does matter.
Coach, name one
accountability. If your coach, if your leaders are holding you accountable, it doesn't matter what name is behind the jersey, it plays a factor, bro.
I'm talking about the player's coach notion. That's nonsense. I want a coach who's going to go out there to win basketball games, bro.
And Luke is a player's. That's what I'm saying. He's a player's coach.
And they're losing bad.
I know. And when things go bad, player coaches, the tension builds up, and you react like players. Honestly, they do. Versus if he's just a coach, you're gonna be like, man, I hate that guy, but he's just a coach. Like, he doesn't care.
But what I'm saying is, E-Man, I still haven't got my answer out of you. The Kings would be in a better spot right now with Dave Yeager as the coach. And it's not even a question.
If you're asking me who would I want coaching the Kings, I would want Dave Yeager coaching the Kings.
Because you know in your heart of hearts they'd be better right now. They wouldn't be 40 and whatever.
Because I know Dave would just help keep Fox accountable. Like, if Dave knows Fox is the leader, someone's just got to get on Fox every single night to say, hey, I'm going to hold you accountable, but you got to hold the rest of your team accountable, because this is your franchise. Like, you have the keys to this team. And everything else trickles behind Fox.
If they had Dave Yeager, they wouldn't be 40-18, but I guarantee the Kings right now at 23-35 would be at least 29-29 or 28-30. They would be in that 9th, 10th, 8th seed conversation. But this is putrid, and I need everybody that's watching this show right now to put in the comment section, you guys agree. Because if anybody does not think that dissertation is correct, tell me why Luke Walton or anybody else other than Dave Yeager in the last 5 years since Malone left is a better fit for this team. Because this comes down to the mistake that Divock made, not just with Luka Doncic, but with Dave Yeager. And at the end of the day, we know when June comes, there needs to be a coaching change. And I'm not saying because it's what's right. I'm not saying it's what's wrong. It's what is going to make the Kings a better team. If they can sit there and look at us as fans and tell us that Luke Walton is the answer to the head coach for the 2021-2022 NBA season, they're lying. They're not being honest with you, because Luke Walton is a good basketball coach, but he's not it for this program, and he's not it here. Because if he was the guy for this position right now in Sacramento, with the acquisitions they made at the trade deadline, it would have been a lot more smooth, and not just the way they played, but you would have seen the results. Basketball is a bottom line business, and they're not getting the job done night in, night out, and we all see that right now.
Yeah, well, I can see Luke Walton as earning his stripes right now, right? And he's early in his coaching career. I think with time, right, he's not gonna get a job for a while, but over time, if he continues to be around the game of basketball, I think he can be a really good coach. But just now, I just still feel like he's too young in his career to have to demand respect and to demand so much from his players. When players, to be honest, we don't know if they even respect him. Like how I was talking about how they view Dave Yeager, right? Because they view him as just like another guy on the roster. Because he used to be a player, and he's still young, and he just walked into this position so easy. Like Vlade didn't even consider nobody else. Like that's what that hurt me. Like you didn't
could have interviewed Monty Williams. Could have interviewed Monty Williams. That was another bad decision. That Monty Williams has the Suns second or third right now in the West, and you look at it and
is it Monty or is it Chris Paul?
I think it's a combination of both. You don't think so?
No, that's what it is. It's accountability. Like you have a good leader, and then a good leader that's a player, right? So you have a player's coach in Chris Paul, and he's keeping his guys accountable. And then you have a coach that's also keeping everyone else accountable. You get what I'm saying? That leadership, that accountability, it's in the locker room.
And two things, Leo.
Go ahead.
I want you to first chime in on my question, because the Dave Yeager, Luke Walton conversation, excuse me, as well as this. When I bring up Bradley Beal or anybody of that caliber, it's because of what you just said, excuse me, with Chris Paul.
Right.
They need, and it's not even a question, a player of that caliber that can hold players responsible for their actions. And it's not anything against De'Aaron, but De'Aaron at 23, in his position to look at the NBA as a star-driven business. Now, whether he's a leader or not, he's a prototypical star point guard in the making. But at the end of the day, we all know the NBA is not one with one star. Sometimes not even one with two, it's one with three. Yeah. But we need somebody that has some utilage, some prominence, but most importantly, a face that can hold somebody responsible, but also back up his own play with how well he is performing on the court. Whether it's Bradley Beal, whether whoever it may be, the Kings don't have that guy. But the void should be met from who? Their head coach. And it's not met by the head coach. And it's nothing against Luke Walton, but he's a player's coach. That's cute and everything. That's nice. But I need somebody to go put that foot and you know where, because it ain't happening.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of seeing the same. Like I said 5 minutes ago, the same mistakes we watch night in and night out, night in and night out, game in and game out. It's like the past has been like it is, but the past don't live here no more. And until somebody comes with that type of mindset, that Jarvis Landry, Cleveland Browns, HBO Hard Knocks mentality, that speech he gave to that wide receiver room, the Kings are going to be hitting themselves in the wall over and over and over again, just banging their heads on the wall. Tell me right now, if Luke Walton isn't the head coach of this team and Dave Yeager is, where are the Kings at right now?
So before I answer that, I think Devin brings up a good point in the comment section. He says, with all these points that you made about Dave and then E-Man talking about Luke, do you think George Karl was a good coach here?
I think he got a bad rap. I think if DeMarcus was more personable, they would have worked better. I'm not saying he was a great coach. I just think if DeMarcus was more open to that idea of him being a guy that could coach his team to the playoffs, I think they would have finished better. Maybe not top 8. Maybe if they had the top 10, they might have. But in the day, I wouldn't say he was a great coach, but I feel like he got a bad rap because DeMarcus, he manipulated that situation. Because DeMarcus, wrong, right, or different, he's a great player and one of the best Kings we've ever had. But, he wasn't always the most, I wouldn't say likable, but he always wasn't the most approachable individual.
Yeah.
And I love DeMarcus. But in the day, there's a reason why he's bouncing around. I mean, how did he go from playing with his best friend to getting bought out from the worst team, if not second worst team in the West?
That's a great point.
And DeMarcus, he'll always have a homie. If I see DeMarcus Cousins, I'll say, hey, man, I thank you sincerely for what you did for the city of Sacramento. But, I mean, how many times he's been on since he left Sacramento? New Orleans, Golden State, the Lakers, the Rockets, the Clippers. He's on his 5th team since he left Sacramento.
It's tough.
I mean, that should be somewhat of a head-scratcher, correct?
Yeah, and Buddha says in the comments that everywhere CP goes, they win. He changed the trajectory of the Clippers, right? Remember when they were the laughing stock? They were us, essentially, right? And
California.
he just changed everything. And then he goes to the Thunder. They were supposedly supposed to be the worst team.
And then he did that,
and now he's going to the Suns. Is there any like? I don't want to discredit Monty, but at the same time, like, what was Monty doing last year with this team, with the exact same team, plus Chris Paul?
They went undefeated in the bubble.
That was fool's gold, though.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
That's all subjective.
Everybody wasn't playing. Like, all the stars for those teams, and they barely won those games.
If it was fool's gold, then why did Vlade get fired? Because of how bad they played in the bubble. If they would have went 5-3 and made the playoffs, Vlade Divac would have a job right now. Bogdanovich would be a Sacramento King right now. I promise you.
If they go 5-5, they still don't make it.
5-3. They played 8 games. They went 3-5. They went
Right.
5-3. They might 6-2, 5-3, whichever. I'm saying if they would have had a 500 record or above, like
I
5-3,
wouldn't put it on all
they
8
would
games.
have kept the job.
I would not put it on all of it on 8 games though.
If the Kings would have went 6-2, 5-3 in the bubble and made the top 10, you don't think that Vlade Divac would have a job?
I think Vlade was just keeping his word. Of if we're not a playoff,
You don't
team,
think
we're
Vivek
out.
said, "Hey man," like Amick wrote. Amick wrote in the
Time out,
athletic.
though. If you during that time of the season, it was one of those humps where they were playing really well. When the whole COVID shutdown
Yeah,
happened.
when they're 28-36 and playing New Orleans here and it got canceled on March 13th.
Exactly.
Yes.
They were playing well during that time.
They
so
were.
Who knows what would have happened? That's why I'm not going to put on 8 games to say this is why he got fired or this is why the Suns were already a good team. It's like, no, they made some pretty good acquisitions and got guys who can switch on everything, and you have a stable big and a really good shooting guard.
But what I'm saying is, E-Man, is that if the Sacramento Kings had made the playoffs in the 2020 NBA season in that bubble, Luke Walton and Vlade Divac are still running the Sacramento Kings. Bogdanovich gets re-signed, and Vivek simply stated on the plane back from Orlando that Amick wrote and published in the Athletic, which I have, a lot of credence in what he can manifest in his stories, that we're going to ask you to take a step down and have somebody else run basketball operations because I'm not satisfied with the product on the court. And it's because, for one, they didn't do enough in an 8-game stretch to put themselves where, okay, yeah, they had that 3.5 month layoff from when the bubble started previous to when they actually shut down the NBA season. But you can't tell me that, for one, if they make that 5-3, 6-2 push to get into the top 10, Vlade doesn't have a job. Most importantly, when Luka Doncic has a triple-double and destroys the Kings and says, man, we played our probably worst game of the season, and they beat the Kings by double digits, and Luke Walton and Vlade Divac looking at each other like, what just happened? And Vivek said, you passed on him for who? Nah, man, I'm not going through this again in the offseason with the draft coming up. It ain't happening, partner, because if you would have made the right choice and you would have kept the right coach, we wouldn't even be having to play in the bubble. We'd already be in the top 6 or whatever it may be in Vivek's mind. And then you have the opportunity to go right the wrongs and get into the tournament. You can't even put up anything respectable. I mean, the last win against the Lakers was a throwaway win, or throwaway loss, rather, for the Lakers, because they didn't care. That win didn't really even count. If you watch the game, none of their starters play. They won, I think, and they barely scratched the surface to win in that game. And I think LeBron and AD were like, I'm not playing because we're already in. So they went 3-5, really it was 2-6, 2-5.
But that's my point with the
because
Suns.
that's why he lost his job.
But the
What do you
Suns
mean?
literally faced every team
And they went undefeated.
who sat out a guy, and they barely won every
There was
game.
no Chris Paul, though. There was no Chris Paul there. There was no Chris Paul on that roster, and they still went 8-0. Monty Williams was the head coach, though. And Devin Booker was still there.
But against teams that, sat out their guys, though.
I mean, we had to go
Literally.
back. We had to rewind the hand of
They
time and see
did.
what players didn't play in each game. We had to go back and actually check and, revisit those rosters.
I know
and
they
DMPs.
did.
No, I know there were some players in the games they played that had some players not play. But who was it exactly, and how many games? Was it all 8? Was it every contest?
If
all
those
8 games?
teams wanted to win those games, so that's where I can argue that luck has a lot to do with it. They were so fortunate. Obviously, you still have to win the games, right? So I'll give them credit for that. But at the end of the day, just like the Warriors had all this luck in terms of, Steph with his contract and being able to sign KD, a lot of things went well for the Suns to go 8-0, and then that created some type of buzz within the NBA, and that's where Chris Paul was like, okay, it's time, right? Where I'm going to leave OKC no matter what. Where am I going? Am I going to LA? Because there was a possibility of him going to Lakers, which would have been super bad for the NBA, right? But he
Look at
went
the
to the
Nets.
Suns. Right. To me, it's just
the
too
most
powerful.
hated team, bro.
Huh?
The Nets are the most hated
Facts.
team.
Facts, right? Like, the Nets are too good, bro.
It's just like they
The
complain
Nets
about the
could be
Warriors.
better than the damn Warriors.
I think they are.
Right.
I mean, and the Warriors were a team
And
that
that's
everyone
a bad
complained.
thing.
I know, but everyone complained about the Warriors. This is like, if you want to have any NBA All-Star join a team midway through the season, just call play for the Nets, and it ruins the integrity of not just the East, but the conference
Facts.
or the
General managers don't want to make
but
trades.
just the totality of the NBA collectively, because the conference in the East has no chance against the Nets, and when they play the Western Conference, it's going to be, I think, no more than a 6-game series with the Nets, and that's my opinion. But again, Brooklyn was all about KD and Irving, and I was like, all right, respect. You know, you came from Golden State, you got your championship pedigree. You got 3 championship appearances, you got 2 chips.
They have Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie. I'm like,
Good, solid bench, depth.
that's a nice
But
team.
they're not going star laden. When it's just him and Kyrie, that's fine. But then you want to get Harden and Griffin, and then you got LaMarcus who retired because it was regular heartbeat. Either way, it's just, if you're playing for that, then what are you really playing for, man? Is this Space Jam, or is this like real basketball? Because at the end of the day, like, Michael Jordan's not coming out, and LeBron, if LeBron can supplant this team and he wins NBA Finals, I'm not saying he's better than Michael Jordan, but I can never.
Yova says the
disrespect LeBron
Nets
again.
ain't winning it though.
Well, I don't know what basketball game you're watching, but Kevin Durant is the second best, if not 1A, 1B top scoring player in the NBA the last 5 years, and James Harden's also right there next to him in 1A, 1B in that conversation, and he's on the team with him. And you have Kyrie Irving, who is one of the most clutch point guards in the playoffs we've watched in the last 10 years. I mean, he beat the Warriors, even though there's a lot of variables that shouldn't happen. We know Draymond gets suspended, Bogut breaks his leg, but he still made the shot. I haven't got there. Blake Griffin, too. And he's on their bench. You know, like they have DeAndre Jordan, who's a pest in the paint. The interior, who can get around him with a true, like De'Aaron, one of the best finishers in the NBA. But we know when they play the Nets, De'Aaron ain't going at DeAndre that way because he knows what's going to happen. He knows that block's coming from whatever angle. But that's another conversation. We're talking about the Kings right now. So for this show and for this game,
I'm not a fan of DJ. I think DJ is so soft, and he's way past his time of playing basketball, which is a huge reason why Claxton gets the most minutes there, which is the reason why LaMarcus was playing over him, and which is the reason why there were rumors and speculation that the Nets were on the verge of cutting him and letting him go.
he'll be a starter on a championship team. That's what I do know. But, again,
Where?
subjective.
Tell me where.
Brooklyn.
He ain't starting on that. I mean,
But he
if
start
he
right
starts,
now.
it's more of a ceremonial thing because he ain't getting like more than 10 minutes a game.
Did he start? Like I said, saying Zaza was not a starter. He was a starter for that.
Well, he
Warriors
wasn't
team,
playing. But right now, DJ's not playing as much.
but he still starts the game.
He starts because he's best friends with like Kyrie and KD.
Does he start the game?
I have no idea.
He's a starter. I
He's
know
a
there's
starter
some-
right now.
Yeah, it's Irvin, Harden, Brown, or excuse me, not Brown. It's the shooter, Joe Harris,
Right.
Durant, and DeAndre Jordan. And now that they put in Shannon Brown to replace.
Because
instead
Blake
of
started
Durant.
the other game.
Yeah, well, okay. When they had some players out, because you know when James don't want to play that night, they'll put Brown there, and then they'll start the other big you just named. What's his name?
Blackson.
Blake Griffin, rather. So then they'll go, Irving, Brown, Durant or Harris, and then they'll go Griffin, Jordan. And then they might go put Brown in for Durant now because Durant's injured again. So they'll go Irvin, Harden, Brown, Harris, and then DeAndre. Or Griffin, but DeAndre's going to start more times than not. He's just starting.
So Yova's saying that the Lakers bench destroyed the Nets bench. Obviously,
But
Harden
that-
wasn't playing that game.
But let's talk about their starters, though. Who's going to win the starting 5 matchup? Like, that's cool and all, but who starts the game?
Yeah, that's
Durant,
tough.
Irving.
I just think it's going to be impossible
Harden.
to beat them.
Who is
Unless,
gonna
like,
stop
2
that
of them
three?
gets hurt. And even then, they're still so good.
Steph, Clay, and KD were unstoppable. Imagine these 3. Like, come on, man. Offensively? Come on, man.
That's crazy.
Irving's the only liability on defense. I mean, Harden's not a great defender, but he's okay. And Durant can play defense when he wants to. But I love what they do in Golden State with the lethal shooting they have at the perimeter, the splash push. But at the end of the day, Irvin and James Harden, I mean, they're nothing to say they're second to them. But let's talk about the Kings pregame show. What do you see tonight that you can sit there and say, honestly, is the key to having the Kings not as much sure a victory, but stay competitive through all 48 minutes?
For me, it's De'Aaron Fox is always setting the tone early in the game. He needs to assert himself. I'm okay with him taking the second and third quarter off. I'm not okay with him not scoring the ball. So when I say assert myself, I'm not saying get everybody involved. I'm being selfish. and I'm being De'Aaron Fox, and I'm putting up 10 points in the first quarter. Like, that should be his goal every game. Can I put 10 points in the first, and then can I, spread out 2 or 3 points in second, third, and then get like 10 to 12 in the fourth? That's going to put you about, 24 to 27 points a game. That's how I want him to break down games, because the Kings aren't good enough. They're not as talented enough to not have him do these type of things, man. So that's where it bugs me from his leadership perspective. And I know last night I said everybody got to look themselves in the mirror. And you were like, well, not De'Aaron. De'Aaron's putting up 30+. De'Aaron, to me, still has to look himself in the mirror, because he's getting paid, $30+ million a year. So he has that responsibility as it is to be the leader of this team. And I expect him, Javi. I expect him to just start the game out strong. And then once his game is flowing, then everybody else's game opens up, Javi. So that's why I say he needs to look himself in the mirror and say, I got to be better in the first quarter.
Respect. I think he need to run a lot of pick and roll action tonight and try to put Towns in a bind and use
That's
Metsu.
it right there. Put Towns in the bind.
And
attack him.
Use Metsu. And I don't know if you can use Whiteside to Tati because his hands are bad and he's slow, but I'd even try to put Damian Jones and put Silva out there and just see that action with him. And
how did you go from like hating Damian Jones to not wanting to not watching?
Hassan Whiteside just bothers me sometimes. he walks around like a robot when he's on the court. I feel like he's moving like he literally reminds me of like a cartoon character, robot, just moving. And he has a great flow of how he does things in the interior, but when he's in transition, it's bad. Like, it's really bad. Like, and it ain't bad to where, like, you can see it. It's bad, like, oh, my. Like, what is going on out there? Like, and he's just at that age. Like, you have to play him in spot starts, spot minutes, situational basketball, because he can't sit there and move up and down the way the NBA players are currently moving for the way the NBA's evolved. Like, he just looks so robotic out there. He moves slow. And it's not his own fault, but he's just, he's a prototypical center. In the NBA, where is that really at right now? You don't find that. And that's just big facts, as you would say. Big facts.
Well, early on yesterday, he was giving problems to Cat. I would say that.
He was, but Cat still had, 26?
Yeah, all of that was like in the fourth.
Okay,
when
again.
Hassan didn't play.
Again.
No, but defense wasn't even part of the game. But I get what you're saying. Hassan's got to play about 12, 15 minutes a game.
At least.
Yeah.
No, excuse me. At most, because at least if you're going to have him play 12 to 15 minutes, he needs to be spelled by Damian Jones.
Yeah,
or Metsu.
You just got to be strategic about it, of the combinations you have out there with him.
What about Silva? I think Silva needs to get a look.
We don't know anything about Silva yet.
Well, I mean, they say he's the hardest working player in Miami. From the scouts at Leo, intel from Miami, from South Beach, said that the Heat loved him, and they said that he's the hardest working player on that roster.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean,
I just want to make sure that we're on the same page with that, at least for the interior players.
So what's your biggest key to the game?
Defensive responsibility, defensive tenacity, but most importantly, defensive responsibility.
Mine's going to be D'Angelo Russell. I'm tired of seeing him blow up the Kings. I just want to see him have a bad night.
Well, he's a Kings killer. He's a Kings killer. He's been a Kings killer when he's on the Brooklyn Nets. Remember he had that 40-piece? Remember that, Leo? And then he had 20.
That Brooklyn one where he went off at the last fourth
yeah, that's
quarter.
what I'm talking about.
That one gave me nightmares.
Yeah, that was the game that really cost him that opportunity to make the playoffs last year. But if you look at last night, I mean, let's look at the box score. I think he had 29 last night. He
came out so aggressive, so groovy, like a Jordan Clarkson role. He just came out here and started gunning.
D'Angelo had 28 points in 25 minutes with 3 rebounds and 6 assists, and he plays their backup point guard position. That's just incredibly inefficient defensively for the Kings. I don't care how good you think Halliburton is. That's his job. That's his assignment. Yeah. You're the backup point guard on the Kings, right?
And
you and Darrell Wright.
And when Tyrese did pick him, how fun was that when he stole the ball one-on-one versus D'Angelo Russell?
Hey, this will make Javi very happy. Rigo Prado says, trade for Levine.
That's right.
That's how Javi's comment.
That's right.
Is Javi commenting from a different account, man? What's going on, bro? What's going on, man?
Respect to Richard Prado, man. You see the light. The Kings need another star. They need that second guy that's going to hold them accountable. Most importantly, when De'Aaron's going for 14 like he did last night, they need the guy to pick him up. I love Buddy Hield. Buddy buckets, 24 all day, lethal sniper, But again, when he's inconsistent, he's a very one-dimensional player in some respects. And you seen last night, he put up 11 points, and he played, I think, 28 minutes?
30
minutes, 11 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. He shot 3 of 3 early on, and he just disappeared after the first quarter. First quarter, he had 3 threes, and you've never seen him never seen him the rest of the night. That cannot happen. But that's your starting shooting guard in the NBA. It's not gonna get it done. It's not gonna get it done.
So is this facts or foolishness? Yova says Hassan Whiteside is useless like Chuck Hayes. Facts or foolishness?
That's exaggeration.
Okay. Okay.
Exaggeration.
On different teams, maybe, but on the Kings, he needs to play like 12, 15 minutes.
So do you think he's Chuck Hayes?
I think. Oh, my bad.
On different teams, yeah, but here we actually need him because we don't have anybody else who's a supersized player.
I think he's a JaVale McGee of that Warriors tenure where he comes start the game, and then he'd play 3 minutes, come out, play the last 3 minutes of the first quarter, come out, play the first 1.5 minutes of the second quarter, come out, where they'd spell him, they'd set the tone, he'd set the present interior, and they'd rotate around. But having Hassan, like I said, he runs like he has bricks in his shoes.
Facts.
And it's nothing against him. He just does not move like other bigs. And again, even if they're playing the Timberwolves, who Karl-Anthony Towns had the most fast player in the NBA, he definitely doesn't have the most quicks, but he can move, and he moves past Hassan. And yeah, Hassan gave him some fits from E-Man, but in the day, he still had 28. Excuse me, he had 26.
Well, check Hassan's
no, my bad.
He was at Robin
I was right the first day.
Fox.
He had 26 points in 36 minutes with 18 boards and 5 assists. Come on, man. In 38 minutes? 36 minutes, he had 26 and 18.
A lot of his damage was done when the Kings decided to go small ball.
And again, that was my first point that we talked about on the show. Harrison Barnes is not supposed to be playing center in the fourth quarter.
At that point, there was no defense.
They weren't playing to have any defensive skill out there. They're playing for offensive continuity. But in the day, you don't win the game offensively. The NBA is based on who can play the better defensive matchup and not who's a defensive stalwart team. The Kings don't have no problem scoring points. It's the defensive end of the court.
Sometimes they do. You just said
they scored 120.
They need Levine.
They need Levine to pick up De'Aaron, not to pick up the scoring.
What's Levine going to do? He's going to score more points. They're going to have 130.
Hey, lost by 4 instead of 14, right? Right?
All right.
You want to take Levine right now? If the Kings offered them Hield, Halliburton, and 2 firsts, you wouldn't take that deal?
I would take that deal.
I would take that deal. I would.
Which one?
Halliburton, Hield, and 2 firsts for Zach LaVine. I would do it right now. I would do it this minute, 6:49 p.m.
I would do it.
21st of April. I'll do it right now.
So he said no?
I said yes.
I'll do it right now.
I mean, yeah. Again,
they're not playing well. They got Vucevic. They look worse.
I think, to be fair, though, even with a guy like Levine on the Kings, it would take an adjustment period. Would you agree with that? To play with another quote-unquote star, it would take a little bit of time to gel. There's a new coach there as well, and that's why. But in theory, though, on paper, it makes complete sense to have a big like Vooch and a guard like Levine. Would you not rather have Levine, on paper, Levine and Vooch over, I don't know, actually, because Fox and Levine would be pretty dirty.
I would bet on that adjustment to have the Kings be in a better position because you look at it right now, they get rid of Halliburton, they get rid of Hield, they can re-sign Rashawn. Now, this is going to hurt your feelings, quote-unquote.
Okay.
But De'Aaron, Levine, Harrison, Marvin, Rashawn next year, you're starting 5, your back 5, or for your reserves, Darrell Wright, Terrence Davis,
you still have a huge,
or Damian Jones.
You still have a bad defensive team.
Well,
some things never change, right?
I'm trying to make small adjustments for a big fix, all right?
Hey,
patchwork right now.
We'll have more views. People watching the Kings.
Hey, Buddha loves that, and he just sent us $4.99 from the super chat. So shout out to Buddha. Respect. We're out here grinding. I just wish, honestly, if we had more fans in the building, which I think the tickets are very limited. Because I know our sponsor, Brett Pedroia from Valley Tire Center, he had called me and he had said, I got 5 minutes to make a decision of whether or not I want these tickets. And I know you want to go, so I'm trying to get, 4 tickets. Problem was, in those 5 minutes, I said, well, they're requiring for people to be vaccinated or to have a negative test within 72 hours. And I just feel like not knowing, obviously, I'm going to test negative, but not having those resources that fast, I don't know of a place I can just give you a 20-minute turnaround, like, oh, I'm negative. So I think that's really turning some people off. And that's why I feel like we don't have this whole strip on the Hardin full right now. Because 652, bro, this place would be popping right now. So I'm just saying, at what point do they open it up to more fans, right?
That's not in the King's control.
Huh?
That's our governor.
That's from
With time, bro.
the big house over there, the Capitol.
Just pisses me off, man. But you're right. It's the Capitol, man.
Yeah.
But again, shout out to Buddha for the super chat 499. Any final thoughts, guys, before we end this? We're on for a few more minutes. It's been a good, spirited show.
I got both the vaccines, and I'm still not going to attend any Kings games because they're not worth what they're charging for those games right now. So if I get a ticket, I'll be gladly giving it to one of you two, my brothers. But even with both the vaccines and my vaccine card, I ain't paying for no ticket, not to watch this game, not to watch this team.
I'm using your card then.
I hear you. Make sure you play some defensive, competent play design tonight.
Let's not score
Sacramento.
130 today.
Let's not give up 30 in every quarter.
Or
try to do that.
Or 40. Because they gave up 40 a lot.
Man.
And then they gave up 40 a lot.
I feel like sometimes they sit there and say, how many points can we give up this quarter? I feel like they play a game. Like, how many can we give up? Can we give up 50? Man, like, what are y'all doing out there? It's frustrating, man. Nerve-wracking. Makes you just cringe looking at it sometimes.
Yeah.
So would you rather have Levine or Beal? And I'll let Ema answer that first.
Bradley Beal.
Bradley Beal? You too?
He's leading the league.
You too?
I want number 3. BB. And it ain't even question.
Is it close to you or no?
Yeah, but, it's like, I look at it like this. You got a high-octane vehicle, a luxury car. Levine's a luxury car, But I'm going to take the guy who's going to put his pedal to the metal and get the job done. Bradley Beal. I like the high-octane vehicle when you're playing the game of what? You're playing the game of basketball.
Right.
Now, maybe the comparison ain't the best, but I don't really care. It's still Bradley Beal, and it's still number 3 in Sacramento.
Yeah. I wouldn't be mad.
I wouldn't be mad they got Levine,
you chose
but I'm
Levine
saying
over him too.
Bradley Beal's the one. He's the one. He's the one I wanted since way back when. And until he signs an extension with Washington, and even then I'll still say, it's all right. Pull that phone, contact up to the Wizards GM, and make the call. Pull it off.
Yeah, I'm not mad at you, man.
That's what we want.
I'm not mad at them, but I think it's super close to me. But right now, I'd give Beal the edge. But it's not like, it's easy. Like, to me, I'd have to think about it. But it's been a good time, y'all. Let's end the show now. People are asking, are we having a post-game show tonight?
Hey, I'm always about it.
Hey, man.
I'm on if we're on.
Thank you guys so much. And on behalf of the entire CK family, we thank Danny from Midici Sacramento for having us here. Hoping that this becomes an event for Kings fans where fans can come on here, sit next to us. We'll ask you guys questions. Y'all can join the conversation. It's going to be so fun once we actually have the full capacity at Golden One Center, man. Like, this entire strip, all the businesses will be, once again, flourishing before this pandemic. And we just want to keep every single one of you guys in our prayers. And obviously, prayers for Javi's player, Daniel. May he rest in peace. We're thinking about him, and we're praying for him. So thank you guys so much. And on behalf of the entire CK family, we thank you, and we'll see you